All right, it's Leafs talk. I'm JD Bunkis. It's Sam McKee, buddy. I just had to fire in the eye drops because they were glazing, but the last 10 minutes of that game they were glazing.
Few TikToks got watched tonight, bud.
Yeah,
this is me.
Yeah.
Oh, another one.
Oh, yeah. Who got that one? A replay? All right, I got it. Yeah, I tell you what, the notes. If the bosses came up and they're like, "Hey, buddy, hey, fella, you gotta show us your notes from tonight. You gotta pass over the notes. You gotta let us see how you prep, Bunk. Give the kids a preview. Yeah. Oh, I'm scrambling, hammering down. I actually have 3 things from this game. Shockingly, 3 whole real
3 big talking points.
Well, yeah. Oh, Joe,
Okay.
you're killing me here. I'm like, is it the eye drops? Is it TikToks?
Well, I got the whole camera moving around when I first popped up here. I didn't even know you could do that.
Yeah, he's zooming in, he's zooming out. I think Joe is on the TikToks tonight too. Anyway, I'll be honest. I think the story of tonight is Marner. We can talk about him and Hovlich a little bit, but this is kind of the worst sort of game. It's a best game if you're a Leaf fan and you're at the game, I think, because you're just having a great time, you're having a few drinks, you're going great, guaranteed win night. But in terms of evaluation, like what we do, I feel like this is the toughest because there's they play well, but there's really nothing you can learn from it. It's not a test. There's what do you take away?
Yeah, and the thing that we talked about last show is, the whole test factor of them playing a bad team, and that's actually the real test. The Sharks are just they're just too bad for that. There's no world. Like, how have they won 9 games? Their last win, they beat the Winnipeg Jets 2-1. How did that happen? 2-1? The Jets scored 1 goal against that team. Like, it's just, they are unfathomably bad. They're just a really bad team. And not to get on my soccer high horse. I know you were a former soccer fan. I know you're not as much of a fan as you used to be.
I'm a Canada soccer fan.
Oh, yeah. What was the last game you watched there, pal?
Well, Canada soccer?
Yeah.
Or Canada soccer, or me
the
trying
last
to believe
heartbreaking one?
Yeah,
the last heartbreaking one against Jamaica?
Or the belief that I was going to wake up and start watching Premier League at Saturday mornings.
Well, that was that. You flirted with that for a while. You're like, I'm a Hamless guy now.
I try to be a West Ham guy. Just Saturday morning is not. That's my time. That's not sports time.
So the reason that soccer is really great, and this has been discussed on many different things, is the relegation factor.
Yes,
and the factor that if you're really bad, there is a massive incentive to be a little bit better, to be like, hey, we need to not, suck this bad, or else we're literally not playing this league anymore. We're going down to the old championship to play against Shrewsbury Town and Ipswich. We're out of here. We're gone. And this team, they're not even mad they suck. No one even, what's his name? That Scott Sabrin guy took 1 run at Riley 1 time in the game. But if this was a game in my youth where it was a bad team that was losing 7-1, there would have been fights. Guys would have been hammering each other. There was nothing. They do not care. There's no incentive for them to be good. Everyone wants them to keep losing. The management wants them to keep losing. Their fans, I guess, want them to keep losing. It's there's just no incentive for them to be better. So this is it. They're going to they might lose 15 in a row, 16 in a row. They are dreadful. So that's my biggest evaluation from the game.
But
get relegation in the NHL.
Well, so this isn't
until the Blackhawks are the worst team in the league, and then they go down and they're like, we need them over here.
No, this isn't Sharks talk, but I will say that I had 2 thoughts watching them tonight. I thought, boy, you're right about the physicality. Used to be a bad team would try to muck it up, and these guys are like, nah, we're just going to play pond hockey. The Leafs, dude, how many times do the Leafs have the puck in the offensive zone and they're just tons of time and space and no one touched them and they're just doing whatever they want. Mitch Marner looked like he was trying to film his N1 mixtape tonight. He was like, hey, fellas, put this up on YouTube later. Put these highlights up on YouTube in my career highlight list, because it'll be out of context in 5 years what was doing tonight. They had all the time and space in the world. And then the other thing was, okay, I forgive a team like the Sharks. They were talking about a little in the broadcast how this is a real winning organization. You know, they've won a ton of playoff series over their existence. They've just been regular season success year over year. I don't view them as like a loser organization that
No,
goes
I
into
agree with
tanking
that.
all the time. So I give them that. But NHL, they want to expand in a couple of years, man. They want to
Oh
try to bring
boy.
hockey back in Atlanta, stuff like. I'm like, we just don't have enough good players and teams for that. I
Or
don't want to have
goalies.
I don't want to have more teams like this. You know, I
Yeah.
don't like the amount of parity that there is in hockey amongst the good teams. Obviously, you and I are big fans of having some type of luxury tax. It's not going to happen. This league should be one where the Leafs do have a competitive advantage to flex their financial muscle and not just be punished for having too many fans and having their players have interest in them. But yeah, I was thinking about expansion and what the Thrashers' future team is going to look like when the Leafs have to play them a couple times a year.
Well, Gary will probably rig the draft like he did for the Squids and the Knights so
Yeah,
that they're
it's true.
immediately good. So
Yeah, it's true.
he'll fire that up. Like,
Yeah, they'll probably
what's
win.
one last Sharks thing?
Oh, we got more. Shark stock
There's
continues.
not one guy on their team that's going to be on their team when they're good. There's no one. Like, they don't have
Yeah.
one like star. They don't have one like prospect. Like, all their guys are in the World Juniors, and Greer's over there being like, boy, I like our guys. It's like, when are they playing? They have nobody that is even close to exciting. Not one guy that I'm like, oh, that's a guy that I wouldn't mind on the Leafs. No one.
Mm.
Like, I'm trying to watch that
Yeah.
Ferraro guy where it's like, this guy may be a trade target. Like, my eyes are crossing. I'm like, oh yeah,
No,
what an excitement. Like, Benoit is better than that guy.
no, and I'll tell you too is, man, I haven't seen it. Just yeah, a real lifeless group, like a
Lifeless.
real just lifeless hockey team where it's like, how did you assemble this team?
Yeah, who are these guys?
How did you get this group together? Like, do they have the Minnesota Wild thing where they've got like no cap because they bought a bunch of guys out?
Well, you get why
how
Carlson
do you
scored
do it?
185 points last year because he was the only one who had the puck the whole game. It's like, yeah,
How did you do it?
I'll shoot again. Sure, I'll shoot again. Sure.
I will say the one Shark was Scotty Sabrin. I don't know. I wasn't really on Twitter tonight. I'm sure it came up how he's the guy that ends up putting the stick into Benoit's eye, gets him gushing. He runs at Morgan Riley, and Riley's pissed about it. And I went, I wonder if this dude still carries the Matthews looking at the back of his sweater move to this day. Like, he's the only guy that got up for this game.
Yeah, I guess he got called up today. So you get called up today. Coach is like, hey, we got embarrassed by these guys. And it's like, what? I wonder what he's going to play like. It's like, I wonder what his role is going to be. But I guarantee he thinks about that. That clip is a very, like, you go on any Instagram reel, any TikTok, any Twitter thing, like,
Matthews made him that guy.
Best chirps ever, best on ice moments. That's in there every time. He ended them. Like, that is as ruthless as it gets, is looking at the name bar. Like, that is. And I think that was actually in a preseason game potentially.
It was.
Like, that wasn't even a regular
against the Sens, right?
Yeah.
Sabrin was with the Sens.
Oh, poor old Scotty Sabs. He's still playing, still in the league.
Hey, still throwing the body around.
Yeah,
like
respect. He's the only guy with any guts on the Sharks.
He's the only Shark that made an impact tonight. Yeah. Other than the kid who got his first goal, where I went, oh yeah, this is a good one.
Old Thunsy.
Thunsy. Yeah. So congratulations to Thun, who I was totally aware of before tonight.
Leafs win 7 Thun.
Yeah. Okay, so Marner passes Mahovlich, and yeah, like I said, it was N1 mixtape night for Mitch Marner. He had some beauties, some gorgeous passes, but here was my thought on the Mahovlich thing. One is that was a guy who, when I was a little kid, I remember my dad being like the Big M, you know, that's a Leafs legendary guy, which was kind of cool for Marner to pass, like an all-time Leafs legend. But it made me think about how everyone talks about the media, right? And how tough it is to play in Toronto. And tonight it hit me because I had no idea about the Mahovlich thing. But do you know anything about the Mahovlich story, about like how he ended in Toronto and all that stuff?
Vaguely. Can you remind me?
So here's a Cole's Notes version of it, because people can go read it themselves. But Punch Imlach ended up hating his guts.
Oh, yeah.
Mispronounced his name constantly, wrote him constantly, and the fans used to boo him. This guy had the goal scoring record that lasted 20 years for the Maple Leafs, and the fans would boo him here. Like, they hated his guts. Buddy, he was admitted, he thought he had fatigue, okay? He went to the hospital. He's like, I got fatigue. Goes to Toronto General. And the doctors are like, "You're depressed," and this is in the 60s. They're
Oh
like, "You're
my
depressed." Yeah, and you know what the papers wrote? The papers were like, "This guy's soft
I was gonna say
crybaby.
baby
Yeah, he's a
Mahovlich.
big old baby. We got to get him out of here." And he gets chased out of town, and he goes to Detroit, and he's just like rattled the rest of his entire time there. He's like, "Hey, I don't want anybody looking into my business. Like, I don't want anybody doing anything about the Big M. Don't even notice me, because I want my privacy and I want my life back, and I want to live up to the expectations of the Detroit Red Wings fans after Toronto hammered him." And I feel like so much of the ghosts of Toronto's past, like the whole media thing, like the newspapers, how they would just be ruthless, kind of like they still are in New York, still chases Toronto around. Like, I know that there's shows that get aggregated sometimes, or there's a lot of attention, like our show on these dudes, but boy, oh boy, like, Nylander squeezes the team for every cent, and the fans still cheer him when he shows up to the rink tonight. And
I know, right? That I knew that was gonna rub you the wrong way, but
no, it didn't. It didn't rub me the wrong way. I think it's fine. I actually think it's great. Hey, dude, he signed a contract extension. If you're in the house, you're not going to boo him. You're going to cheer him. You're going to say, "Hey, great that you're staying here for 8 years." I think you can have a nuanced take on Nylander, but no, if you're at the game, you absolutely don't boo a guy for signing an extension with your team. It's a gutless move.
He had some big years after he left Toronto.
Yeah, buddy. No, Big M. But that's the thing. He didn't have a long career in Toronto. It was like, I want to say maybe like 7-8 years before he moved on to Detroit, and then
From
Montreal.
57 to 68, he got traded in midseason.
Okay, so yeah, that's quite a while. Well,
Yeah.
a little longer than I thought, but still, he, like I said, he held, I think, 48 goals. Mahovlich held the Leafs record for, I want to say, over 20 years. So, yeah, consequential Leaf, but it just made me think. I know the times are a changing, and we view mental health differently. There's an athlete empowerment era, but it did just make me smile thinking about like how everyone thinks these guys have it so hard here, and that Nylander is built to play in this market. And I was like, yeah, it's a little different than when it was Boreas Sullivan times and Frank Mahovlich scored 48 and getting booed out of town and chased out by the papers who called him a baby when he had depression.
So it's, I think we're going to have to get used to this here, though, where they're just knocking off big names. Like, it's not, if Matthews, so if Marner signs a extension next summer, which is the next new thing we get to talk about every time, which is really fun. But then if he signs a 6-year contract or 7-year, however long he decides to stay in Toronto, it's just Marner and Matthews and potentially Nylander are just going to be 1, 2, 3 in all time in scoring for the franchise. Like, we're watching 3 of the greatest regular season Leafs of all time. Like, there is no question that these 3 guys will be 1, 2, 3 in goal scoring. Yeah. So I mean, it is something that you just zoom out and you're like, oh yeah, okay. Like, we had it pretty bad a lot. So you kind of have to take advantage of this, but it's impossible not to measure them against their playoff successes. It's an interesting era. It's a kind of tortured era in its own way, right? Where it's like you have these guys that you could never have dreamt of having, but then you don't win anything in the playoff and you just have to debate if they're actually good or not. Like, it's a tough one, but yeah, you just get used to Marner and Matthews knocking off big names on the all-time list here.
Well, I think the major thing is just how Toronto didn't have guys that played full careers here. Yeah. And you're looking at potentially having 3 players that could be here for their entire careers. I think that, Marner is still up in the air, although I feel like he's just going to get re-signed July 1st this year. He'll get his 13%. I actually thought it was didn't you think it was kind of fitting that right after Nylander signs his contract, Marner's like, "Everybody get up. It's time to jam now." Like, doing all the highlights, getting his points up. And he's like, "I'm passing big Mahovlich." Like,
oh yeah.
Yeah, give me all my money now. Like, he was.
Buddy, are you kidding me? He saw Willie get that, and then he's like, "Oh, we got the Sharks at home. Space Jam. Like, it's time." He's like, "I'm gonna spin the ball on my finger. Like, it's time, baby." I thought they were due.
Yeah.
But no, you're not reading too much into it. That is 100% accurate. Like, that is something that he's thinking of, and I'm sure we're going to start getting the what the Marner camp's looking for reports, in a couple months here. So
yeah, I think they'll give it time.
It is what it is. I just think he's going to sign for too much for too long, and it's going to be over. Like, that's what's going to happen. Like, at this point, I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. You're going to trade him. We went over this the other day on the show. Like, I know we don't want to get into this, but we don't have a whole lot else to talk about. Like, if you trade him this offseason potentially, then that's something that's been talked about a lot. The thing is, it's like the reason you're trading him is because you had another really disappointing offseason where you're trading him not only when he has the lowest value because everybody watches the playoffs. He has 1 year left. He has a full no move. Everybody knows his history. Like, you're not getting the king's ransom that you would get that you think you're going to get. Like, you're going to get a good package. You're not going to get like a 3rd round pick back for him or something, but it's not going to be like the franchise altering thing. And then if you do have a good run and you go deep in the playoffs, you're going to want to sign him. So it's like, you're kind of damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Just sign him. Keep the good players. Like, I don't know. I'm just coming around on this a little bit here.
I hope that if they flail in the playoffs, that they put a lot. They shop them
for sure.
I just think that. But at this point, it's like, just it feels inevitable. It's like you said. He's got all the same advantages. He's going to want that. You just tell him July 1st he gets his 13%, which is what all these guys get. Hey, here's your 13% of the pie. Mm-hmm. Now go get your regular season points. Get your cookies against the Sharks, and we'll squeeze Tavares for as much as we can, and that's where we're gonna make up the cast. Yeah,
old Johnny. It's time, Johnny, to get squeezed.
Everybody's staring at his daggers out. Yeah, Tavares. I like whatever those deposits look like in your bank account. You know, they down. Yes, don't look. Yeah, just look at what you have in your savings. Yes. Don't look at the checking anymore. Okay.
I had something else from this game. Okay, what's yours? Is it goalie related?
No, my last thing is just that you could really tell Robertson had jump and he wanted the cookies, and I'm glad that he got his 1 goal against the Sharks because he was just chasing all night long, trying to get it. And I thought, okay, you know what? He had some moments where he popped later, I think, in the game, but early on it wasn't too much. And I thought Pontus Holmberg had a nice goal too. So the 2 guys vying for that last roster spot were kind of going toe to toe with the goal scoring. I think Holmberg's was nicer, even though Robertson showcased his shot. But the thought I had on the Robertson shot was simply, when he plays, we don't see enough of that. Like, he's just not able to create his space. And so, against the San Jose Sharks, when he gets all the time and space in the universe, like all the rest of the Leafs did in the offensive zone, great. He can grip it and rip it. But when do you really see him do that? When do you see Robertson throughout all of his game? I think he's only got, before tonight, 5 goals.
That was
maybe
6.
I think that was his 7th. Okay, so then he was on 6 goals this year. But it's like, how many of them are the patented shot, right? Remember 2 preseasons ago, Matthew's going, this kid's got the best shot I've ever seen. He's got a better shot than me, blah, 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 blah. It's like, for him, that was his 6th. Yeah, see? So anyway, I think when we're talking about who should have that last roster spot, and one of my things with Robertson is like, you have to have the skill to be able to show off the shot, and we don't see it enough for me to justify playing him over Holmberg. Like, I kind of think he's out.
Yeah. I think it's over. At some point here, it's going to be over. And I don't know if you can still extract value for him.
He'd be their captain.
But he'd be their best player by far on their team. Like, there's no question. But who do you want back? Who do you want back?
Joe Pavelski thing.
But the smaller American guy, he can rip it. But like you said, he's just never in the sweet spot. He's like that. You saw it tonight on that power play. He gets in the sweet spot, lets her rip, and it was a nice shot, but it just never happens, and you're bang on. Yeah. So. But I don't know if he has any value. Like, I don't know what they do with him.
No. It's just I guess you just sort of keep him in if anybody. I think it's just but
Holmberg's definitely more valuable in terms of what he does for you. Like, he plays in the defensive zone. He can kill a penalty in a pinch. Like, he's a responsible guy, and that's the reason that keeps them playing him. Like, they did a lot of stuff in the offseason here gearing towards offense, and they sacrificed a lot of defensive guys from their bottom 6 last year. And it's like, well, if you're not going to be going super offense and shooting in the net a lot with Nick Robertson, you might as well bring in Pontus Holmberg, who can give you a little bit of defensive responsibility in the bottom 6. And he wasn't even supposed to play tonight, right? Like, that was nice. And if you're watching on YouTube Sportsnet Plus, this is a really nice goal by Pontus Holmberg.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, really fends off the defender, puts the body in, drives the net, and then
Kipper was in the building tonight. He knew.
Yeah, he was. Yeah. So the kid looked up to him. He's like, "Thanks for trying to get me that offer sheet, bud. We did our best." Okay, what's your last thing?
I feel like I went on that morning show with our boy Ben and Gunner this morning, and Ben was like yelling at me about Hildeby playing tonight, and I was like, no, he just played Jones. Hildeby probably could have played tonight. I think they probably could have survived this one with old Hilda Beast in net. And you yelled at me about it on Sunday. I think probably could have just gone with the old Beast tonight. I think and got through that one.
I'll tell you this right now. I think that we're doing way too much thinking about Marty Jones because we're just in a bit of a lull period here, and it's contract stuff, and we've been on Nylander. But and Jones is an obvious storyline about playing too much. If this was an entire season, I'd be worried and fretting about it. I think you're just kind of trying to battle and keep these points. Like you don't have that much position up.
I'm not upset about the workload. Like I just mean like you probably could have snuck one in here, is what I'm saying.
Totally, and I think that they should have played Hildeby tonight just because it would have been in front of that team, but they wanted to make sure that they got those 2 points because the thing is like the standings are congested, man. Like there's a case where the Leafs blow that one, right? They lose that game. They had a bit of a tough week, and all of a sudden they're playing the Red Wings on Sunday, and it's like they're looking to leapfrog you. Leafs have some game in hand on the Red Wings, but if you're them, you want to try to make sure that that gap is there and that you're not fighting for your playoff lives throughout the entire season. Although maybe that ends up being actually a good thing for them either way. But I think that what did we talk about with Sheldon Keefe a couple of weeks ago? Is like this guy, he wins regular season games. He does not give a crap about goaltender rest or what's right. It just feelings, all that's
straight through.
He's just trying to win regular season games and keep getting it up there. So I expect Marty Jones. What I think is a little crazy is the birdies are talking. Multiple people, been talking to me now about there's maybe Samsonov gets the second half of the back-to-back game this weekend.
Oh,
like it's not.
God.
I'm just telling you that it's apparently a possibility that like it might not even be old D Hill. It could end up being Samsonov. He gets the decompression. They're checking in with him. Maybe he gets an AHL game which he hasn't played in yet. All I'm saying is, two people brought it up to me.
You're not telling me what you know. You're telling me what you've heard, as like our boy Doug McClain likes to say. So, I mean, listen, I would rather Hildeby start that game than Samsonov 10 times out of 10.
I don't know. I don't.
You agree?
I don't know who. No, I just don't think who's going to take the position of like, I don't know. I think they should put the guy in who gives up all the goals.
Yeah. I think they should probably leave him down a little longer than 2 weeks. Well, it's more of a 2-week issue than what I've seen this year.
All I know is that it's like I thought Samsonov was like a complete write-off. I thought he was done. I came back on my show and I said, yeah, it's probably it for him because Marty Jones will replace him. They get through this month. And I was just surprised that it could end up being this fast, especially since he hasn't played an NHL game. Maybe it doesn't materialize. Maybe Hildeby does get the net. Maybe they don't feel it. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's more of a possibility than we once realized when we saw Samsonov leave. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
For sure.
Anyway.
So last thing for me, nice to get the couple tomato cans out of the way here. Got some real games coming up here. Like they go to Long Island, which is always a tough one. Avs at home, and then you said the back-to-back.
Avs give up a million goals though, so that's nice.
That'll be fun. Be a fun game. Yeah. And then you go to Red Wings, obviously. Then you got the Oilers, Flames, Canucks, Kraken, and then 2 Jets before the All-Star break. So
it's a sexy little stretch.
Some real fun games coming up here. Jets, Leafs is a really great rivalry with the fans, and going back to like that weird COVID season where they actually had some real hate for each other. So good stretch of games coming up here. We don't have to watch the tomato cans anymore.
Ryan Reeves getting close too. I wonder if he gets in for that Jets game. That's his home. Like, I wonder if he's back for then.
Is he playing? Is he skating?
Well, that's his squad. The Manitoba boys is going to want to show up for that game, and they got the edgy rivalry with that team.
One of the great all-time interview moments is Scott Oak because he knows Reeves. And he's like, he's like, you see me in the hot tub, Scott. You know what I look like with shirt on.
That's a good one. Anyway, subscribe to this podcast, leave 5 stars. And thank God for no more Sharks games. For JD Bunkis and Sam McKee. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at JD Bunkis at Sammy McKee. And again, follow the podcast on YouTube, on wherever you get your podcast, Spotify, iTunes, wherever. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We always appreciate it. We'll see you on Thursday night.